In the courtyard 2 chariots were waiting. "Ride with me," Alexander said. The 2 of us shared a chariot with Iris, and as the horses started moving, my brother took my hand. We sped through the gates, and from the royal harbour I could hear the gulls calling to one another, swooping and diving among the breakers. I inhaled the salty air, then exhaled sharply as my eyes focused in the dazzling sun. Thousands of Alexandrians had taken to the streets. My brother tightened his grip. There was no telling what the people might do. But they stood, as still as reeds, lining the road that ran from the palace to the mausoleum. They watched as our chariots passed, then one by one they dropped to their knees. Alexander turned to me. "They should be fleeing. They should be getting as far away from here as they can. Perhaps they don't believe Octavian's army is coming." "They must know. The entire palace knows." "Then they're staying for us. They think the gods will hear our prayers." My brother shook his head. "Then they're fools," he said bitterly. The dome of our family's mausoleum rose above the horizon, perched at the rim of the sea on the Lochias promontory. In happier times we'd come here to watch the builders at work, and I now tried to imagine what it would be like without the noise of the hammers and the humming of the men. Lonely, I thought, and frightening. Inside the mausoleum a pillared hall led to a chamber where our mother and father's sarcophagi lay waiting. A flight of stairs rose from this room to the upper chambers, where the sun shone through the open windows, but no light ever penetrated the rooms below, and at the thought of entering them I shivered. The horses came to a sudden halt before the wooden doors, and soldiers parted to make way for us. "Your Majesty!" They knelt before their queen. "What do we do?" My mother looked into the face of the oldest man. "Is there any chance of defeating them?" she asked desperately. The soldier looked down. "I'm sorry, Your Highness." "Then leave." The men rose in shock. And the war?" "What war?" my mother asked bitterly. "Octavian has won, and while my people scrape and bow at his feet, I'll be waiting here to negotiate the terms of my surrender." Across the courtyard, priestesses began to scream about Octavian's approaching soldiers, and my mother turned to us. "Inside!" she shouted. "Everyone inside!" I gave a final glance back at the soldiers' fear-stricken faces, then we plunged in. Within the mausoleum the summer's heat vanished, and my eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness. Light from the open door illuminated the treasures that had been taken from the palace. Gold and silver coins gleamed from ivory chests, and rare pearls were strewn across the heavy cedar bed that had been placed between the sarcophagi. Iris trembled in her long linen cloak, and as Charmian studied the piles of wood stacked in a circle around the hall, her eyes began to well with tears. "Shut the doors," my mother commanded. "Lock them as firmly as you can."